During times of scarcity, whether in wartime or periods of severe economic strain, clothing wasn't just worn, it was treasured, salvaged, and stretched far beyond what modern wardrobes could endure. For those of us fascinated by history and survival, understanding how people manage their garments offers more than just nostalgia. It provides practical lessons for resourcefulness today. This isn't about vague tales of thriftiness. We're talking about methods that kept families clothed, protected, and presentable when every thread counted. By the end of this discussion, you'll not only appreciate historical ingenuity, but also find ways to apply it yourself, whether in prepping, sustainable living, or historical reenactment. People learned to make every garment last far longer than we do today. In the early to mid-20th century, especially during the World Wars, clothing was rationed, and fabric was a precious commodity. Families didn't discard garments at the first sign of wear. Instead, they patched again, and often refashioned items into entirely new pieces. Men's military shirts could become children's school uniforms. Old wool coats were unravelled and rewoven into mittens or scarves. Understanding these practices teaches us a critical skill, seeing clothing as modular and adaptable rather than disposable. Practically, this means when you spot a worn-out sweater in your closet, instead of tossing it, consider removing intact sections to create gloves, hats, or even patches for other garments. Repairing clothing was both an art and a survival skill. Sewing was essential. Families maintained sewing kits at the ready. Needles, thread, and spare buttons were never far from reach. Hems were reinforced before they frayed, seams restitched under tension, and tiers often received clever darning patterns to restore functionality while maintaining structural integrity. But darning wasn't just functional, it became creative. Patterns disguised repairs, making patch socks or shirts visually acceptable, sometimes even fashionable. For a modern prepper, adopting this skill isn't just nostalgic, it's practical. Learning to reinforce weak spots before they fail extends the life of your clothing during extended survival scenarios or supply shortages. A simple exercise is to inspect your daily wear for stress points, cuffs, elbows, knees, and preemptively stitch them. Rationing clothing meant strategic usage rather than constant replacement. During rationing periods, citizens were often limited to a fixed number of clothing coupons per year. This forced ingenuity in scheduling wear. Outfits were rotated meticulously. A suit might be reserved strictly for church or formal events, while home and workwear took the brunt of daily activity. This practice meant clothing was not only preserved, but also maintained better overall, because items weren't subjected to constant, heavy use. Modern historians and survivalists can adopt a similar mindset, maintain a rotation system, care for each item, and treat high-value garments with consideration. A practical tip is to separate your wardrobe into daily heavy-use items and reserve pieces, mimicking historical rationing to extend longevity. Reusing and repurposing garments became second nature. Nothing was wasted. Silk stockings from one generation became doll clothes or patches for household linens. Excess fabric from worn-out dresses was transformed into quilts, aprons, or reusable cleaning rags. Even buttons were salvaged and stored in jars for years, ready to replace lost or broken ones. These practices highlight a crucial mindset. Look at clothing as a resource, not just a commodity. Today, this could mean saving old t-shirts to create bandanas, turning worn-out jeans into durable tote bags, or even crafting protective layers in survival kits. Each piece has multiple lives if you're willing to think creatively. Communities shared knowledge to maximize clothing utility. Repair skills weren't always private. Neighbors exchanged techniques and tips. Needlework circles or sewing guilds became hubs for practical education, where people learned to reinforce garments, dye faded fabrics, and combine scraps for new creations. Sharing knowledge ensured that even those with minimal resources could maintain a functional wardrobe. For the modern prepper historian, community engagement is still valuable. Hosting skill-sharing workshops or online tutorials can help ensure that clothing longevity techniques survive beyond a single household. Understanding the historical approach can guide modern prepping strategies. Applying these historical insights today goes beyond fascination. For survivalists, knowing how to maintain, repair, and creatively reuse garments can reduce dependency on modern supply chains. Start by auditing your wardrobe to identify items with repair potential. Learn to patch seams, replace worn buttons, and rotate high-value clothing. Consider storing extra thread, needles, and basic dye for longer-term contingencies. Even small steps, like maintaining a repurpose bin for old clothing, can mirror historical strategies and provide security in uncertain times. In conclusion, understanding how clothing was reused, repaired, and rationed to the breaking point is more than a historical curiosity. It's a guide for resourcefulness, creativity, and resilience, principles that serve generations under extreme circumstances and remain relevant for us today. By studying these methods, we honor the ingenuity of the past while equipping ourselves with skills that can serve in both everyday life and survival scenarios. If you found this guide valuable and want to explore more practical history-based survival strategies, make sure to subscribe to The Prepper Historian and share this video with fellow enthusiasts. Your support keeps the knowledge alive and ensures these lessons aren't forgotten.